Welcome everybody to this workshop, Clearing Stuck Emotions from the Holistic Body. So we're going to be treating and working with the holistic body from two different angles. And one of them is TCM, traditional Chinese medicine, complemented by the Kriya. And I'm going to turn to Pritam for that in a few moments, but we're first going to start talking about TCM and the 5 elements before we actually move into working directly. And you'll see I've got my companion next to me here, Felix, and if you've got your loved furry friend with you, just know that many of the areas that we are going to be working with, you can actually use on animals as well. How amazing is that? But before we get on to and into playing with the body, let's just take a moment to step back and understand where we are coming from, just to have some perspective. Now, TCM is rooted in Taoism, yin-yang language, so it's full of philosophy but also spiritual teaching. This is at the heart, and it's quite a pun there, and you'll know why when we get to the fire element and we talk about the heart. But at the time where TCM started to become formalized, and this was, thousands of years ago with ancient Chinese practitioners, they started to put it together in a language that would be understandable and accessible. And what is more accessible than nature? And so we are invited to feel into different aspects of certain parts of nature. And it doesn't mean that the other parts are not there, because they're actually all there in the holistic view. Now, in the early days, there were 4 elements. It was water, wood, fire, and metal. And it was only later that earth was added. And this is because it was actually understood that earth is just part of everything. And when they refer to earth, earth is actually the soil. So we find how water moves through the soil and retains some of the soil. You find that connection there. The connection with the wood element, wood is actually referring to the plant kingdom. Plants, they grow in soil. And then we've got fire, which is absorbed and retained. The soil needs the heat. And metal, another word or description, is mineral. So the minerals in soil, also in water, are traveling through the earth elements at all times. So just bear that in mind as we move through the different elements, also known as phases. So I'm going to show you a chart now, which some of you I know. And here we see the display of the different elements, and the creative cycle starts with water, and water flows into wood, flows into fire, flows into earth, to metal, and then we have an alchemical process to start a new cycle. So this is one cycle, and a cycle can be referring to a day, a year, certain areas in life. It could be referring to a relationship, a time in your career, so any area of life. An easy way to look at these elements as well is through the seasons. So water refers to winter, wood to spring, fire to summer, earth to late summer, and metal to autumn. And each of these elements is comprised of meridians. And they all have two partners except for fire, hence why it's so much larger, where it has 4 meridian partners, 2 of which are extraordinary. Now, I know a lot of people often ask me, oh, where can I get a chart like that? So I can't give you this one, but I have made a chart which is available for you to access freely on my website, Mind, Body, Wisdom. Or a Helen Hansen, both .coza. And if you go onto the resource page, you'll see there the 5 elements. And in each one, it also refers to the name of the meridians, the times that they're active, related emotions. So you'll get a good feeling and a reminder. And it's great to have these little reminders up and available for us that is accessible, because often when we're going through our day and something happens and we're wondering, what is that about? What emotion is that about? Why am I feeling this way? Well, I've got a drop in energy. Well, this is suddenly happening, and it just doesn't make sense. And then we look at the 5 elements from that perspective and we see, oh, this is part of a cycle. So I don't need to get too caught up in my headspace worrying about what is actually going on here. Just let that flow, because it is part of that transformation. And this cyclical transformation, so you've got this huge cycle, the greater cycle, the macro cycle, but then you've got the micro cycles. Just like, think of it as the yin and the yang. The yang contains the yin, but the yin contains the yang, and they are forever in this dance, even if it appears that they are stationary. It can never be stationary. There is always movement because of the principle of vibration. Everything is vibrating. And because of this vibration, and it's not just that one aspect is vibrating. Everything else around it, and everything around that, and around that. So we've got this flow that is in continuous motion, and that propels this movement from one phase. So it's not a state, it's a phase. One phase into the next, like the yin will move into the yang. So in that phase of water, we've got the bladder and the kidney meridians. And while we look at them individually for ease of reference, they work together. And there is a time and an experience where it's actually overlapping, and the two are intertwining. And there's a time where water transforming into wood, or winter moving into spring, you kind of feel some days like, technically it's still winter, but gosh, it feels like spring. And that is what it's like as we experience this flow, the cyclical flow, from moment to moment, day to day, to week, to month, to year, and just start to look at all of life in that way. I'm going to pause here because we're going to be speaking in more depth as we move through each of the elements. And I'm going to pass over to you now, Pritam, just so that you can share for us what is a Kriya and how does the Kriya relate to, combine with the TCM? How are we going to be merging the two in our experiences here?
Thanks. So I like the fact that you said everything is vibration and everything can just keep shifting like that, because it's never in a stasis. It's always in movement. And when we do a yoga exercise, simply what it does, it enhances the moment and fluffs it out and fleshes it out and accelerates it or grounds it. Okay, so if normally it will be at a kind of 30-40%, when you do an asana, you go to another level and another frame of experience. It just magnetizes it. And it is comforting because we often kind of feel, there should be something else. What am I feeling? You know, where's my antennae plugged into? But we don't feel it. When you do an asana, it all comes together and you feel it. And that in itself is very reassuring. So when I was 19 or 18, I think in my matric year, I was for a year a macrobiotic. And it also is very much centered on yin and yang. And the teachings of Michio Kushi and George Osawa really centered on the fact that yang is better because we're also yin. Okay, so my friend and I were going, ich fühle mich gerade so yinisiert, you know, it was so funny. I feel so yinned out, you know. But what I learned from Helen is that we need the yin to refresh and nurture the yang. It's super potent. So the yin is the refreshment, the rejuvenation, the underpinning, the resourcefulness, and the rising energy. Okay, that then strengthens the yang. Okay. Can I go into the water kriya? Not yet, Helen?
So, you know, I feel that that might actually be a beautiful way to start, because of water being the strongest yin element. So it has incredible depth. So if we start with our cycle with the Kriya and then end with it, it could be like a beautiful seed. So yes.
Okay, cool. So in this Sikh prayer known as Japji, there is, by Guru Nanak, there is one beautiful line that says, you know, the universe gave one word and tens of thousands of rivers started flowing. So, you know, the water is very fundamental. It starts seeding everything. And in the emotional contextualization of the water element, you can have a balanced part and a part where it starts sort of spinning out of control and you get too activated. Can you appreciate that? That you want to be somewhere navigating that realm, but you can feel when it starts, you know, going overboard. Okay. And those transitions are fluid. There isn't an exact point where you often feel when you start going into spinning out, then you feel it, but you don't realize when that starts to happen. And when we do an asana, asana means posture and kriya means a posture that through its execution delivers a particular effect. So the kriya always has a time factor there, right? You start with it, something happens, little happens, then something more happens, then something else starts corroborating, and then boom, in the end, whoop, you have a consolidated effect. That's a kriya. Whereas an asana is just a posture. So that's, you know, the terminology. So when we do this little breathing exercise now with a hand posture, we can use it for both. We can use it to appreciate water, what it does, and we can use it to feel more of the water, and we can also use it to take us from a more activated, and in this case, activation means imbalanced state, back to normal. Yeah, the activation is like, I'm spinning out here. And what does the water stand for? In TCM, traditional Chinese medicine, it is information, discernment, resourcefulness, and wit. Wasser bedeutet, ich bin informiert, ich habe Ressourcen, ich habe Witz und ich bin subtil. And when it starts spinning out, it goes into fear and caution. Furcht und Vorsicht. Das heißt, du hast so viel Einsicht, dass du dann denkst, oh nee, das ist wirklich nicht gut, wenn ich jetzt das mache, ich muss mich wirklich zurückhalten. So, okay. So that is water. Right. Shall we do the exercise? It's quite specific. Have a look. Little fingers are aligned. Middle fingers touch. Ring fingers and index fingers are just loose and thumbs are pulled away, pulled towards yourself. Elbows comfortably at your rib cage. Und wir atmen in 8 Stößen ein. Und dann atmen wir im Flöten aus. Okay. So you breathe in 8 little sniffs. And you breathe out with a whistle. And even the posture itself. Imagine how the water would flow if this was a rock. Okay, steter Tropf hüllt den Stein. Das Wasser fließt und arbeitet sich durch das Gebirge hindurch. That's what this posture looks like. It's if the water is flowing through rocks, paving, creating its way. So also in your psyche. Okay, let's start. Your eyes are gently closed. 8 sniffs through the nose. Whistling out or breathing out through a puckered mouth, and it can whistle, make a sound or not. Take your time. Please carry on doing this. I'm going to talk a little bit more while you're doing that. So when you breathe in 8 parts, and internally you can just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. It relates to tension held in the diaphragm, in the solar plexus.
I'm just helping out Nani with something because actually I was supposed to.
The 8-stroke inhale makes you aware of the tension in your diaphragm. And the whistling out very gently releases it. And you start playing with tension, trust, information, resourcefulness, erudition. You know what erudition is? I love that word, erudite. You're informed, you're sophisticated, you're tuned in, you're listening, you're very, very soft and very receptive. When you are too soft, you get overwhelmed. Okay, so that's where it starts spinning out. Carry on for a few more breaths. We can do it for about 3 minutes just so that you feel it. When you do this at home, you can do it, take it up to 5, 8, 11 minutes. And you know you can do these anytime, no? A nice time is to do it in those 15 minutes after you wake up in the morning. Just take your little time just to savor the day and say, day, I am ready for you. What you got for me? And I will share these exercises with you at the end. I will send them to Helen so we can just share them all around, disseminate them. Make this your last 2 repeats of the breathing pattern. And lastly, breathe in. Hold and press the sides of your hands firmly together and also the middle fingers. Halte schön stabil und press die Seiten der Hände und die Finger zusammen. Halte den Atem an. Und kräftig durch den Mund aus. Powerfully out through the mouth. One more time. Inhale. Consolidate. Out through the mouth. Stretch up your arms. And gently shake out your wrists. And just look around and see how your sentiment is. So what this exercise does, water is listening. Remember how Emoto had all these emotions imprinted onto water? So water means listening and being receptive. And when you do this meditation or this exercise, receptivity is not your bane, is not your problem. It's not that you're too sensitive. It's just that you are right. You can listen and digest. Yeah? So that's how this one works. Not that you go, oh my God, it's too much. What am I all hearing? Gosh, let me just go under my blanket, because it's too much for me today. Those feelings, no? Okay. Thanks. Thanks, Helen.
Thank you, Pritam. Yes, that is such a beautiful flow into working now directly with our neuro-emotional release point. And that's really just softened the body and absolutely made it more receptive. And this receptivity is a potential that is with us always. Just take a moment to think for yourself now, when do you find it most easiest to be receptive and when not? And perhaps even why not? You don't need to go into stories, but just to self-observe. And when we are in a balanced relationship with our water element, it shows up through experiences where we're able to listen, we're able to take in, but at the right moment, we are able to express. We know when to speak, but we also know when to be quiet. We know how to have courage, when to speak up and how. So there's the sensitivity, and the water element from a very physical perspective shows us our most sensitive systems in the physical body, the bladder and the kidney. And these 2 channels are long channels that flow up the front and then flow down the back, all the way down the back, down the sides of the legs, into the feet. So any time that we are sitting with tension, Pritam mentioned tension just now when we started, tension will have some degree and level of connection with our water, with bladder, kidney. It's connected to the cold. So if you are one who struggles a lot with tension, struggles a lot with fear, with anxiety, with having the courage to speak up, or even struggle to listen, this can be listening to others, but also listening to yourself. Do you hear yourself? And what is that relationship like with yourself? This is all water-based. And there's so many different doorways. So we could look at and work with directly the physical body. So directly the bladder, do legs up the wall, or hydrating much with water. It's got the perfect mineral content when we're drinking happy water, for balancing not just the physical, the energetical, the emotional, mental, the spiritual, and. So we are just using a few doorways here today, but just know that it's treating, it's benefiting the whole. So we're going to move now to working with the neuro-emotional point for the bladder meridian. This is the yang partner in the water element. So water is yin, but within that, we've got the bladder meridian yang, and kidney is yin. So when we're struggling with fears, anxiety, terror, dread, panic, so any level or degree of those emotions, insecurities, lack of courage, treating the bladder system is going to benefit the entire process that the bladder system, bladder meridian, bladder channel, all same thing, works through. So working with the neuro-emotional point, it's one point, a very important, very sensitive point along the whole channel of current. And there's so many other points, because a meridian is actually made up of points. It's not really a line, it's a point, but if we stand back and we look down on it, it looks like a line. So that's why we often refer to it as a pathway. So we've got all these pathways in the body, but there is said in all meridian teachings, and there's different schools, you know, there's the Chinese and the Japanese, etc., and they all agree on one thing, and that is that the start of the meridian system, because it's actually all one, we've just got one long meridian, but we work with it in sections because it's easier, and there's that section with that pattern and that section with that theme. But the start of it is actually the starting point of the bladder meridian. So it's a powerful yang frequency in the body. Anything going on with your back and your hips, you want to look at supporting your bladder. Now, every time we're going to work with these neuro-emotional points, there's only one rule, and it's a very important one. And it's because these areas are so sensitive. We're working with frequency, remember. So if we're experiencing anxiety or fear or whatever it might be, and we work with the neuro-emotional point, it's transforming that. It's not taking it out. We don't want to take any energy out of the body. We transform it into something useful. So along the same bandwidth of current of fear is courage. Along the same bandwidth of insecurity is security. So it's the same tone, but just a different hue. And that's why we're going to be transforming, but we're only transforming for a little bit so that we don't overturn the dial. Okay, so this rule is not more than 30 seconds do we work these points. You might feel that you actually want to stop sooner. That's fine. You will still get the benefit. You will get more benefit listening to your body. So really listen and feel into it. Anytime you feel I've got to stop, or I don't feel like I even want to work this point. Honor that and respect that communication that's coming through. Okay. I hope you've got your glass of water handy because it is part of this treatment. We're going to hydrate immediately afterwards. But to find the point, it's bilateral because our meridians run left and right side. So we're going to work this one left and right together because we can. We're going to use 2 fingers. We always use 2 for balance of polarity because our digits are positive, negative, positive, negative. Thumb is both. It's neutral. So anytime you want to use a thumb, that's fine. But let's, for this one, use 2 fingers. And we're going to find the point, which is at the base of the skull. An easy way to find it is to start just below your earlobes and then travel around to the bottom of the skull. Now, you want to be on the bone of the skull. And when you're there, you're going to rub quite deeply, pressing firmly in a circular motion for no longer than 30 seconds. Add the breath. Slow breath in, slow breath out. And then just pause there for a moment. Slowly release. Shake out the arms. Flick the fingers. And time to hydrate. And the reason that we hydrate is because there is a lot of energy moving in the body right now. You might already be feeling something. And this energy is used up. So it's like fuel being used up in terms of using the water that's in your system. Hence, you need to replenish. So you might feel reactions like tingling, temperature change, emotions, certain thoughts, something happening on the opposite side of your body. We worked this point, but now I'm feeling my little left toe. Well, funny I should say that because little left toe is the ending of the bladder meridian, but you could feel it anyway because there's a connection. Remember, the bladder is not operating on its own. It's connecting with bladder and kidney. Bladder and kidney are not operating in their little bubble on their own because guess what? Water is parent to wood. And water is grandparent to fire. And so we've got these other cycles that take place as well. And what that means really is if something's been happening in the water element for a while, so because we're having a focus of emotions here, let's stick with that. If you've been struggling with anxiety, fear, panic, terror, anything that is water related, and I'm talking challenge aspects, but it also goes to the other side of the scale as well. If you've been dealing with something for a long time, it's eventually going to start moving out and affecting other areas as well. We know this. If it's water-based, it is going to have an impact on what is happening in wood. And in wood, we find liver and gallbladder. So if we're sitting with fear for a long time, what can start emerging? Anger, rage, frustration, irritation. And perhaps you have experienced this. I know in my sessions of kinesiology, it's one of the very common links is below the anger is the fear or the anxiety. That's often the root. Not always, it's person and situation dependent. And if anger's been there for some time, then it goes deeper into a deeper form of anger. So in these elements and these phases, the emotions are not only stuck to one place. So it's not like we only have anxiety or fear in water. That is predominantly where it is. It's not like we only have anger in wood, because there's different types of anger. So for example, the type of anger that you'll feel coming up in and through the liver or gallbladder meridians is your more deeper, entrenched anger, something that's been there for a long time, can be linked to certain memory, or maybe even not. You don't know why, you just always had this, whatever it is, related to anger or frustration. But the beauty of the wood element is it holds the frequency of transformation. So when we are getting these little memos of anger, self-righteousness as well, the irritation, the frustration, it's a message when we're aware of it consciously that we are ready for it to transform. Only that which we are ready for change, then that moves up from the subconscious into the conscious. So always trust when you get those messages and those signals, be it thoughts, be it emotions, what have you, that, okay, this is coming through because I'm actually ready to look at it and process it. Of course, it's still then in our conscious choice to answer the memo or not. And likewise with these areas that we are working with, these neuro-emotional points here, it is a wonderful way for our system to very quickly transform something which has been stuck. However, if we have a pattern that has been with us for some time, we will need to address that alongside working with the energetical body, the vibrational body, the subtle body in the way that we are. So this is not a bypass. It is a support. And it's a wonderful support, especially when we are in times that we are working, doing a lot of self-work. And along with that would be your Bach flower remedies. So for your fear or anxiety, you could use rock rose, you could use mimulus, you could use aspen. And then for your anger, you could use holly and impatience for impatience. But those are surface level because there's always related emotions, and you want to be treating the whole package, including the root emotions as well. So we're going to work with the gallbladder point, neuro-emotional point now, because I have noticed this is in relation to anger and frustration and irritation. This is a point that shows up often. It is of a yang nature, which means technically the point, the meridian, is closer to the surface of the skin. The yin meridians are always more deeper down. But we don't just feel them in that space because it is a vibration. We feel it throughout. So before we work with this point, let's just take a moment to think of something that we're dealing with. And it doesn't have to be any of the emotions that have been mentioned or that we are looking at in relation to wood and gallbladder. Any emotion that is with you right now, or maybe has been with you in your thoughts, in your heart, something that you feel, oh, it's just been with me a bit too much, or maybe I just don't understand it, or I actually just need this to move now. So just take a moment, and while you're thinking about it, just place one hand on the forehead. This is a neurovascular point for our bladder system, which means it's benefiting all of our meridians and subtle body. Okay, so now that you have got your awareness of the emotion, maybe there's more than one, that's absolutely fine. Take a breath in and drop your awareness into your physical body. Where are you feeling that physically? And if you're not, don't try and find it or contrive. Just be very relaxed and scan your body and just notice. What areas are you feeling? And then take a slow breath in. And as you exhale, release the hand from the forehead. Open the eyes and let go of that focus on those emotions and thoughts. Bring your awareness now into the space that you're in. Feel the surface that you are connecting with beneath you. We're going to return to that towards the end. So we're just putting it to the side for now. Now, gallbladder point, it's quite a fun point to access. We're going to need to stand. And when we're standing, you want to be flat-footed. You can obviously have socks on, but no shoes, because we need to have the spine as erect and uniform from one vertebra to the next as possible. We're then going to relax the hands next to the sides of the body. So you want your arms to be relaxing and hanging all the way down. Okay, so let's stand up. All right, so your arm, both sides, because we're going to be working both sides at the same time. Arms are hanging all the way down, and point your middle finger as far down your legs, both sides, as you can. Now, where the tip of your middle finger ends, that point, once you've got it, then you can bend your leg, you can bend your back. You're going to take 2 fingers now on both of those points, left and right side, and now we're massaging deeply in there. And if you're feeling that point, that's great. Sometimes we do. Remember to add the breath. If you feel it's a little bit sensitive, slightly above or slightly down, go there. But you want to keep it in that area. Breathe deeply. Massage deeply. Remember, if you feel you need to stop sooner, please do. One more breath in, and on the exhalation, release. Shake out the arms, shake out the hands, flick the fingers. And time to hydrate. So Pritam, I'm going to hand over to you for the Kriya for wood.
Fantastic. So I love it that you spoke of anger, because the wood energy is idealism, motivation, spontaneity. So it's outward directed. Need to know. I'm there like a bear. I'm exploring. I'm available. And when it tips over, it goes into anger and frustration. And why shouldn't it? Because in the outward directed movement, you come to an end. you know, in the unlimited movement, you come to the limit. And anger is often a sentiment around boundaries and borders, either not being noticed or overstepped or unacknowledged or whatever it might be. Okay, so there is an issue around boundaries and connection. And wood is also related to Jupiter. So it's wisdom and the higher purpose. And also there, when we get frustrated, you know, it can sort of bring us down. Okay. And this little Kriya is spelled Kriya. Okay, I explained it earlier. Again, uses a breathing technique. You make a circle with index finger and thumb, and you have the arms like this. You look like a W. Right. 45 degrees. Chin is a little bit drawn in towards yourself, so you don't pressurize the neck. And you're going to breathe in the whistle. And then you breathe out with a very sudden, forceful, round mouth called cannon breath, as if you're spitting out a ping pong ball. Okay. Carry on. And you can notice here how that forceful breathing out is like a release. And you can push through that little moment of frustration where you go, flip, it isn't all aligning up. Why not? You know, that feeling that parts aren't quite gelling. And you just penetrate through it like a thunderbolt. You just say, you know, I can go through this. I'm clearing the path. And you don't have to be good or bad or anything about it. You just do it how it comes naturally to you, to your capacity. Idealismus, Spontaneität, Neugierde, Motivation, Ärger. This wood also relates to dopamine. Dopamine is the motivational neurotransmitter. Dopamine gets released as long as we are on the journey towards the goal. And it slows down when we have reached the goal. And we get a new goal and dopamine starts increasing again. Make this your last one. Please breathe in through the nose. Sit solidly, hold the breath. And let the breath go. And stretch up the arms. Gently shake your hands, elbows, shoulders. So when we speak of anger, we don't say, you know, I'm like rageful, I'm going to burn the house down or clap the next person. It's not about that. It's this sort of irritability where you go, it's not quite making sense. And why not? You know, we know that feeling so well. And sometimes it just flows, like everything has got like a special lubricant. And you go like, geez, could it be so nice? And then sometimes it feels icky. Okay, that icky feeling, that's all that you need to be dealing with. Thank you. Helen.
Thank you, Pritam. And this flows so beautifully into fire. Let's have a little squiz at our charts again. So we've worked through water, wood, and we now at the top of the creation cycle, we have got two yin meridians, heart and pericardium, also known as Suk-6, because it relates to the circulatory and reproductive systems. And in TCM, the fire is speaking to what is called the Shen, the spirit, the mind spirit. And what this really boils down to, no pun intended there with regard to fire, but it is inviting us to not only treat ourselves physically or look at what is coming up for us in the fire experience, which could be struggling with forgiveness or compassion or bursts of anger. It's different to wood anger. It's quick fire anger and then released and forgotten. It also talks of hysteria, insomnia, the gloominess, this incredible confusion that can take place in the head space if we are not clear within ourselves. And so there is a part of this experience, one could call it part of the treatment, is connecting with spirit. And that could mean different things for you different times, depending what you're going through. Maybe it's connecting to yourself spiritually. Maybe it's connecting to others. Maybe it's connecting to the greater, the divine, a nature spirit connection. You will know from time to time what the message is for you. And it's about trusting that. So when there are symptoms showing up in our fire element, it can be the heart physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. It can be the small intestine, which is the yang partner to the heart. It could be the circulatory or reproductive organs. It could be our heating, cooling system. So struggling with breathing, even though breathing, we'll talk about that a little bit later in metal, there is a component naturally connected with the heart. So any of those symptoms, look at it directly, but also you don't have to work with that in a spiritual aspect. You might, but it's just about connecting with spirit, perhaps more or perhaps in a particular way. So ask. You know, you have the answers. We are designed with this innate intelligence. So trust that it's there. And trust that when you ask, show me, and then you fill in. Trust that the answer will come in the right way at the right time, and then do respond to the answer. Because if we keep on asking and we're getting answers and we're not responding, what happens is that connection seems to fade. It doesn't really. That connection and the messages will always be there. But it's like we start turning that volume down. So the more we ask, the more we respond, the more that volume grows as well. And that volume can be different from one person to the next. Some people actually hear messages, others will just sense it, others will know it. You might receive it coming through to you in your day-to-day experience. You know, somebody sends you an email or you hear something in a song and those words stand out for you. Don't just pass that by. Listen to that.
Or it
And
comes to you in your
that is
dreams, right?
absolutely, absolutely. Because when we are having disruptive dreams and a lot of scattered dreams, that is also our fire element talking to us, being out of balance. So we're going to work with not the heart neuroemotional point. We're going to work with the pericardium 6 neuroemotional point because it is actually deeper than the heart. If you think about the pericardium and its job, its function, it's the sheath around the heart. It protects, it's the gatekeeper of our emotions. And when we are children, this gatekeeper often is not very strong. And hence, we can, in later years, adult time, be experiencing still those whispers of childhood wounds. So it's these emotional wounds that we are going to be assisting to transform in the energy body. Now remember, if you feel you don't want to work this, or while you're working it, because it's a very sensitive point that you want to actually stop after a few seconds, please do. We're not going to work it as deeply as the previous two because of where it is positioned. It's running down the midline of the arm. That's the direction of this meridian. Now, if we move to the inside of the elbow, remember, take 2 fingers. That point, that's where we're going to be stimulating. So it's a sensitive area. You don't want to press deeply. You might even feel like you don't want to press at all. You can also just have 2 fingers over the top, even above the skin, and because of the magnetic quality of the hands and the magnetic quality of the current of the meridian, the work will still be done. So decide now how you're going to be working, and let's begin. Adding the breath, slow breath in, keep the body relaxed. And you don't have to have your arm out. I'm just having it out for camera purposes, but you sit in a position that feels good for you. Okay, let's do one more breath in, and on the exhalation, we're going to go to the other side. Just feel in around the area. If you're feeling anywhere tender, you can go there. If it's slightly below or above or to the sides, it's called the localized effect in TCM. Otherwise, if you're not feeling anything tender, you just stay on that center spot. And let's begin. Breathing deeply. Another slow breath in. Keep the facial muscles relaxed. Keep the jaw and the throat relaxed. And on your next exhalation, slowly release. You can just rub your fingers on your palms, flick your fingers out, and then please reach for some water. If you are starting to feel emotional, please use the hand on the forehead as a support. This is known as an emotional stress release, and it is a mental and physical stress release as well. You can have your hand in this position for as long as you like. Pritam, Shall we move to the Kriya for fire?
So fire obviously relates to Mars, and I find it interesting. Let's just compare, yoga and TCM. So in yoga, we think of fire as being anger, but in TCM, it's wood. And of course, wood gets transformed through fire into ash. Okay, so they are close together. But fire here is seen as passion and intensity, and it can accelerate into joy and frenzy. Frenzy, it's cool, no? You have these moments sometimes where you feel like a kid at a party, you've had a bit too much sugar and you're going like, like completely mad. And it is a happy space, obviously, it's a great space, but sometimes just feels like you don't know how to come down from that again. Yeah, you know that feeling? Okay. So the exercise here is you take your arms to 60 degrees. That's a strong posture. The hand is just like that. And you tilt your head back a little bit. So just go to a place that's sustainable for a minute or 3. And you breathe in, and with the exhale, you go, ah. Just the deepest sigh, like a soft moan, a groan, a sigh, like whoa, this like it's beautiful, no? A beautiful feeling to sigh like that. Make it very audible. Ah, like you're sighing all the emotionality and everything of your soul and heart into the world. Ah. And when you sigh like that, you can literally feel the sound travel all the way down to your pubic bone. It's like there is a relationship. Your pubic bone and yoga relates to your second chakra, your juiciness, your connectedness, the juice, the beauty, the rasa of life. And in this one, your sound relates to that cradle of the second chakra. And it makes you feel like you can process this frenzy and joy when you want to go a little, little mull, little crazy, little wild. Just do 3 more of those. Doesn't have to be long, but do it with feeling. Sigh it all out from your soul. It ripples right through. It ripples through your heart and your tummy and all the way into that pubic bone area. It's a gorgeous feeling. And when you're done, bring your thumbs together above your head and give yourself a nice stretch through your arms and your armpits. And exhale and gently shake out your hands and elbows. And just take a moment to appreciate that feeling. And the feeling is a little bit like, tasty, okay, fine, enjoyable. And this feeling of, digestibility, not like you're gonna don't know what to do with all your joy within yourself. So it's funny, in psychology, it would be a bit of bipolar and so, but, a bit of bipolar is fine. You want to be a little high and happy, In German, we say, zu Himmel hoch jauchzen, zu Tode betrübt, that feeling of, all my lights are coming on. And when you do this thing of paying credence or giving space to that exaltation, yeah, then you come to a place where you say, it's okay, I can digest this. It's quite nice. Thanks.
And so we flow into our digestive meridians, part of earth element. Remember, earth is the element, the phase that is part of all the other phases. What that really means is we need to be grounded and earthed for all of these experiences, be it they physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, and more, for them to be balanced and to also take hold. So where in life would you benefit from more grounding right now? What is keeping you too much in your head? Because these heady thoughts, they're going to, over some time, impact the stomach, how it is able to literally digest food, but also how do we digest life? How are you digesting and processing relationships at the moment, or situations, or memories? That is an indicator for you of your earth element, very own personal earth element, and the relationship of stomach and spleen. So spleen is the deep yin partner, stomach being the yang. And when we're getting messages through our stomach system, so we might have nausea, which is physical, but also nauseating thoughts. We might feel that we are a bit empty. We might feel unsatisfied, discontented. We might be struggling to deal with criticism or disappointment. If we're not going to look at them, process them, and help them to digest, then it moves into the deeper aspect of earth, the spleen, and then we start to see bitterness taking root. That is the strongest shadow-like emotion of earth. Spleen is also to do with the future, anxiety about the future, or faith in the future. And when we're focusing so much on the future, we're not really present, we're not grounded. And an easy way to take ourselves out of the headspace into the body is just put your focus on somewhere in your lower extremity areas. It could be the lower dantian, so placing both hands on top of each other and just below the navel. And you drop your awareness into the center of the lower abdomen. And you just breathe in here. And this area of the physical but also energetical body is known as where our origin of chi resides. So the chi from our ancestors, this is what we feel in the lower dantian. How is that feeling for you right now? It's the chi of creativity, of fertility. It's the chi of aging. And if the body is struggling with aging or premature aging, we want to connect with our lower dantian. But lower dantian, it's an important part of the energy system to connect with very soon after waking up in the morning. So just take a few breaths in and out here. And you're just noticing, you're not trying to change it. If it's not feeling great, just allow for that. Allow for that discomfort and be present with that. and the more that we can allow ourselves to feel uncomfortable, the more you'll notice over time it actually starts to automatically neutralize. You can also take your awareness to the soles of your feet to get yourself out of a headspace. And this point that we're going to be working now is the starting point of the stomach meridian. So starting and ending points, they are power points. And it's working on an emotional level, but also a physical level. So stomach meridian is interesting in that it travels down the face, along the jaw, up to the hairline, back, down. So sinus, through the teeth, jaw. These are all areas that could give you clues of symptoms. You could be having pain just on the outside of the ear, stomach, up to the hairline, stomach, and then it goes all the way down to the second toe. So we're going to work the first point and then the last point for grounding. Now, it's sensitive underneath the eye. So we're not going right underneath the eye on the soft skin. We're going on the bone. And for about polarity, you can cross your wrists over, but it's not going to amplify the meridian treatment, but it adds an extra benefit of polarity balance for the body. So if that doesn't feel comfortable or you can't do that, you can also have the hands on the same side. Okay. So now you have a choice of either massaging, but because of the sensitive skin, you might not want to massage. You might prefer to tap. You can also do that. So experiment with both. Remember, only 30 seconds. Relax the facial muscles. Breathe deeply. Keep relaxing. Keep the jaw relaxed. Tongue relaxing down on the bottom of the mouth. We're going to do one more breath in, and then on the exhalation, we're going to gently release. And we're going to reach now for our second toes. So the second toe on left and right feet. Again, you can cross over or use the same. This is going to ground in your system everything that's been done up until now. So hold the tip of your second toe quite firmly. It's almost like a pinch, but you're not letting go yet, and you're breathing deeply. Just a few times. And you can use this for anything that you would like to ground into the body. You've had a good experience, grab a hold of your second toes. Breathe deeply and then release. Shake out the arms, flick the fingers, and hydrate.
That feels so nice, those points. I love them. You know, Helen has taught this before, but when I hear it again, it's just like it's settling. It's very good. Okay, the meditation that I've got, I love it so much. It's very special. I did it this morning and got such a buzz from it. So it's got two parts. First part is where you just put the backs of your hands to each other and you center that at your sternum. Okay. The thumbs are close to the palm and it's a bit awkward, but not really. And now we do something very fine. Okay, you close your eyes and you inhale and you imagine very deliberately bringing up the juices through your central nerve canal. So through the center of your spine, you imagine from the tailbone, from the base of your spine, you bring the energy up. It's very trippy and very sweet. And you nearly feel like you want to click, 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 click your little vertebrae upward as you're doing that, like the Jacob's ladder. You want to make space for that flow. And then you exhale, and when you exhale, you do nothing. But with every inhale, you basically go like up, up, and away. Up you go, up, hydraulic press. The oil, the deep black, rich black gold from under the earth, you're squeezing it up. And in another context, you just feel like, yeah, it's my fluidum, my élan vital, my Kundalini energy. I'm bringing it up, that shiny, rainbow, silvery, golden struck, golden shot through energy up through the spine. And you let it dissipate over your crown or wherever it wants to go. And again, with every inhale, you bring it up. It's like you are hauling it up through the inhale, which is slow and measured. And what this meditation is for security, for feeling connected here, for feeling safe. And it can nearly make you a little emotional because you just go, gosh, there is so much joy and beauty. Why is it not always there? It is there and it isn't. It is not and it is. You're very welcome to practice these exercises at home, whatever appeals to you. And also take note how far the energy flows or where it maybe dissipates more. Okay, that would be the last breath. Just give your hands a little massage. Massage, massage. We put the regular prayer pose at the sternum, so palms are together. We're going to say a few times this word, Gobind. I put it in the chat. And it means sustainer. Isn't that sweet? We talk about sustainability. That is the very word. Gobind means the universal forces are sustaining. So we're going to say it quite enunciated. Gobind, 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 Gobind. So when you're at the end of the breath, you just inhale and just carry on. Gobind, 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 Gobind. Gobind, 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 Gobind. Oh universe, you are my sustainer. Gobind, 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 Gobind. Gobind, 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 Gobind. Breathe in and out. It is in reference to and in reverence of that, we might play with the energies all we can, but we're just giving credence that it all comes by universal grace. Okay, earth element. Next one, last one is metal or mineral.
Correct. Yes. Thank you, Pritam. That was lovely. So this is often the phase that we find to be, in terms of life experience, the most challenging, because it's all about moving from the end of a cycle into a new cycle, and that can be challenging. When we let go of a relationship, a job, we move somewhere, we have a change in life, and there's a big change taking place. And this change invites us to move forward, but oftentimes we have this natural, in inverted commas, response of holding on. So these are some of the qualities to look out for if you notice that you're holding on to something too much, too long, and there's a resistance to letting go. This is the minerals, or perhaps that hard metal that's talking. And in the body, we see it in terms of the lung and the large intestine meridian, the holistic body. We're going to work with the lung meridian, the yin partner here, which is directly to do with the breath. And we've got different types of breathing. The in-breath, all about taking in life. So if you're struggling with the in-breath, ask yourself, why or where am I struggling to receive? If you're struggling with the out-breath, where am I struggling with letting go? Pause breath. Where do I need to settle and rest more? And mineral is also a yin phase as a whole. And remember I was talking earlier, while we look at these individually, we also need to look at it as a whole. And although we've been working with the creative cycle for ease of reference, water, wood, fire, earth, metal, they do have different interrelationships. And I'd like to mention the one here now of metal and fire. Remember, fire is Shen, is mind, spirit. So when we've been feeling like we're stuck and we can't move forward, something's holding us back, it's now time to reach up to fire, to reach from a depth of a yin space into some yang. We're needing some of that yang quality, some of that spiritual support. So know that about metal, that if it's been there for so long, no matter it feels like what you do and what you try, just can't let go of something. By all means, treat the lung and large intestine meridians, also heart and pericardium. And if we don't, this is when the deeper, darker experiences of life can be felt, like depression, toxic shame, feeling powerless. These are some of the shadows that can arise, as opposed to feeling light and cheerful and able to move forward and flow and release. So what space are you in now, generally, but also in different areas? Some of those descriptions might have spoken to you, and you just want to notice. And let that be part of your practice going forward. Something comes up for you. Oh, yes, yeah, that's me. I'm struggling with this, or I'm struggling with that. Have the awareness by all means, but don't let it continuously take you on the train. Stop it and hand on the forehead and start talking to yourself. Self-parent yourself into the present. The neuroemotional point for the lung meridian is on the hand. So the lung meridian starts in the region of the lungs, travels up to the shoulder, down the arm, and ends on the thumb. So this fleshy muscle on the palm, just below the thumb, that's the area that we're going to work. You don't have to think about the emotions that were mentioned. Maybe they come up for you, maybe not. What you really want to do is just let the body do its work. And you pressing the right points now, it's your biocomputer that you're working with. It knows what to do. Just feel around for anything sensitive. If there is, go there. If you're going to the middle of your hand, that's not a localized effect. That's going into another meridian. So stay on this fleshy muscle. If you're not feeling anything sensitive, we're just going to work the center, 2 fingers or a thumb. Let's begin. Massage deeply. Breathe, relax, and relax the body, the shoulders, the hands, the face. Feel yourself grounding down, lifting up. One more slow breath in, and on the exhalation, we're going to move to the other side. Feel around. Anything sensitive, go there. If not, you're going to be in the center. And let's begin, nice and deep. This one can often feel quite painful. It's not a bad thing unless it's excruciating. Like, oh my word, I can't bear it. Then you want to release the pressure. But a little bit of discomfort here, it's quite normal. It's okay. If you're not feeling anything, it doesn't mean it's not working. And sometimes we feel it differently on the left side to the right side. It's also absolutely fine. Just different sensations coming through at different times. One more slow breath in and pause there for a moment. Slowly release. Shake out the arms. Lick the fingers. And please hydrate. So Michelle, you're saying that the back of your hand is quite sensitive there. Yeah, so if you're talking about this area, just to make sure, don't work that when you're working this, because you will be working another acupressure point linked to the large intestine meridian. And this is one which you can work for much longer because it's more related to purely the energetical body. This is very much emotion specific. So use just on this point and don't go over to the other point. So thank you for mentioning that. That was valuable. All right, Pritam, our last Kriya is
very interesting too that we're working with the hand. So you're going to take the left palm, you're going to take index finger and middle finger, and you're going to walk from the center up and then down of middle finger and ring finger. Index finger and middle finger will walk up and down, middle finger and ring finger, with a little pressure, so it yields a little bit, moves a little bit. And it says it's for abnormal situations that we don't comprehend. How funny is that, hey? Have you had a dose of that lately? When you're at your wit's end, you've thought it through and you've overthought it, and you don't know what more and what else you must be planning. Because metal relates with intuition and rationality and the mind. What if life goes into the irrational? What do we do then? We can still do something. It's an interesting feeling, no? It starts twitching and itching a little bit. The fingers relate to the different zones of the brain. And if we want to impact on them, then we can work with the fingers. Sometimes when you work with the fingers, you literally feel like it's a massage within your skull. You feel something being affected in your skull. Okay, for stuff that we don't understand. For an irrational something or the other. Okay, palms together, breathe in and out. And just take a 2 breaths with eyes closed and feel into maybe a sense of, yes, this will do. This is okay. I'll find my way. The path reveals itself. Step by step. Thank you. Helen, we're not going to do the little feng shui because we're nearly at the end. So,
Yes, correct.
It's 8
So
minutes to 5.
We're going to do a check-in now of the check-in that you did between water and wood. Do you remember the emotion that you were connecting with? And I asked you to feel into your body. So we're going to do a quick check-in on that now. So if you can just call up that emotion, and again, you might like to close your eyes. And we just intentionally bringing it to the foreground of our mind. And then drop into that place of the body that spoke to you earlier. And just notice what's happening there now. No expectancies, no trying to change anything, just notice what is happening. And then once you've noticed, you can breathe in and breathe out and let that go. And we have different responses at different times in different ways and moving from time to time. So the response that you're having now in your physical body could be very different to the response that you're going to feel in an hour's time, or 2 hours, 5, or even tomorrow. And the reason being is the physical body takes a little bit longer to catch up to all this energy work that we've been doing. So be patient with your physical body. You might be feeling a sense of comfort and more calm and something beneficial, which is wonderful. If not, however, maybe it might even feel like it's worse. And that's actually a good sign, because it means then that the energy is moving and there is transformation taking place, because you've started to shift. You've lifted up the carpet. You've seen what's underneath. You've started to gather that, move that. There's sometimes then a little bit of dust and we sneeze and we have a reaction, and that's okay, because we know that once we finish the spring cleaning, everything's going to be settled and look fabulous. So trust that process that the body is going through right now. If it is feeling at any point like really uncomfortable, hand on the forehead, and you can take it further. And wherever you're feeling a discomfort in your body, you place your hand there. So maybe you've got a tight chest, you connect conscious brain to the area of discomfort and you create a conscious healing circuit. And this you can be in for as long as you like. It's really effective. It's really simple, but it helps the body's innate intelligence to work. And if this has been meaningful for you and you would like to deep dive even further, Pritam and I are going to be holding a 2-afternoon workshop, Friday and Saturday, I think it is, towards the end of October. And we're going to be working also through the 5 elements, but the Feng Shui as well. And not only emotionally, we're going to be working physically, mentally, spiritually, doing healing work, doing nurturing work, and energizing processes. So if that sounds interesting and exciting to you, then I'm going to be sending out some info on that, as well as the link for the recording of the session today, in an email to everybody tomorrow. So have a look out for that. It's going to be coming from helenhansen.co. So if you don't get it, just check your file 13, your spam. So we're going to move into an option for questions and just a little reflection with all of us here. After we've done our closing and completed the recording. So Pritam, would you like to say anything before I share a verse from the Tao for our official closing?
No, thank you. Go right ahead.
Thank you. So this verse 13 from the Tao Te Ching speaks very much to us taking responsibility for our whole self. So you might like to close your eyes, lie down, and just receive the nourishment of these wise teachings. Be alarmed by either honors or disgrace. Respect those things that pain the mind as you would those that pain the body. What does it mean to say that you should be alarmed by either honors or disgrace? Consider honors to be of a low order. Be alarmed by receiving them. Be alarmed by losing them. This is what it means to say that you should be alarmed by either honors or disgrace. What does it mean to say that you should respect those things that pain the mind as you would those that pain the body? The reason that you have things that pain the mind is because you have a physical body. If you did not have a physical body, how would you have things that pain the mind? Thus, a person who respects his body and rules an empire may indeed be entrusted with the empire. A person who loves his body and rules the empire may indeed be depended upon to rule.